My friends and I, all of our classmates, we had a field trip, and any kid's joy to get out of the classroom, essentially, and have a field day. So this local park that we went to was Putnam Park. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar. It's in Redding, Connecticut. We did a lot of outdoor activities like walking, hiking, and we played some games. It was a lot of really fun stuff, and I was really excited to be away from my desk as a young child. As a young girl with cerebral palsy, I always had some mild difficulty in keeping up with others when it came to physical activity, but I always enjoyed it nonetheless. I was keeping up fairly well with most of these activities. However, there came a point when we were doing a hike, and this hike was at the top of the hill, and at the top of the hill there was a river. Picture just, a fairly barren forest, wet from last night, the rain, and, it was fall, so there wasn't a lot of green foliage. But at the top of this hill, there was a river. Picture, a normal flowing river. And in the river, there were several precariously placed rocks, kind of just putting out a path, easily navigable for anyone that had standard balance and mobility, which I did not, clearly. I watched all of my classmates with ease traverse each of these stepping stones. No one had any blunders or problems. And I figured that I would go last. Why not savor the moment and appreciate everyone walking across? And it was my turn to go. Everyone had crossed. And I made it to about the third rock, and I slipped and fell completely on my back into the flowing river, and I was soaked. And as I stare up in the sky, contemplating all of my decisions up till now, every single life decision, my thermos and my lunch was making its way towards no return down the river. Thankfully, my friend Candace, she ran and grabbed it. And this is all happening while I'm just laying in the river. And I look up, and all of my classmates are jaw-dropped, either laughing, stunned, or maybe they even feel a little bit bad for me. But I was quickly helped by the hiking instructor and back on my feet. My clothes were soaked, my young ego was bruised, and my reputation as a sixth grader was permanently scarred. And although I was not physically hurt, and I managed throughout the day, I learned to face the adversities that come along with living with a physical disability, and that necessarily I don't have all of the mobility and balance that a person with normal mobility has. As an adult, these mobility issues have taken somewhat of a toll on me. Although cerebral palsy itself is not degenerative, there are coexisting conditions such as scoliosis and ankylosing spondylitis, which are degenerative. Whether it be an arthritis flare-up in the fall or a propensity to a new injury, cerebral palsy patients often, they actually have a larger propensity for injuries, or just the general wear and tear of the joints, I really struggle with maintaining pain-free days. Often those with disabilities resort to care such as physical therapy, medication, and even surgery. Surgery is oftentimes like the end-all be-all. Medication and physical therapy can be a remediation, but surgery often is kind of the thing that can solve the issue. For me, as I knew physical therapy and exercise might not always be enough, I've always relished and thought of the possibility of surgery, which can be extremely daunting. And I've always just relished for a way to make my life with disabilities just a little bit easier. With a strong focus in software engineering, I've been observing the everyday rapid changes in technology. And I've always hoped that there would be a better way to improve patient outcomes for those with disabilities. And considering the technological advances that have been made today, I believe that we can utilize innovative virtual reality technology to improve the lives of those with disabilities. Now, this is a big claim, but let me get into it. For the past 8 months, I've had the pleasure of working with an innovative company that has developed the leading virtual reality surgical training and assessment platform named Oso VR. Accessible on the Quest 2 by Meta, Oso VR provides a revolutionary, clinically validated virtual operating room where surgeons, medical trainees, and healthcare professionals can perform repeatable, commonly used, and even rare surgeries on not a cadaver or a live human, but rather a virtual patient. Oso VR provides numerous procedures to choose from, all equipped with step-by-step interactions through the procedure and even analytics on how you're doing with any given procedure. This feature is extremely valuable to surgeons because traditional surgery, they usually have to wait quite a while for cadavers or for a person to undergo the surgery, and this can take quite a lot of time. With VR, things are repeatable as any amount of times that you want. And you can do it in the comfort of your own home. As part of my contributions at Oso, I work as a full-stack engineer, developing the web applications that are actually embedded in the VR experience. And so that provides a lot of analytics on the different procedures that surgeons and medical students run. Cerebral palsy patients, like me, and those who have an even more severe case of the condition, they often go through surgical procedures effectively titled total knee arthroplasties or total shoulder arthroplasties. Now, arthroplasty is a big word, so give me a second. It just means a simple joint reconstruction or a repair of the joint. So when you hear me say arthroplasty, simply think of that. These procedures are generally needed due to the wear and tear on the joints that come from arthritis and scoliosis, and as well as for lack of mobility and muscular imbalance. A lot of the times, joints will need to be repaired for that. Furthermore, there is actually major overlap with the conditions I previously mentioned with ankylosing spondylitis. Ankylosing spondylitis is an inflammatory disease that affects the spine, and scoliosis, more known as just like a misshapen spine. Scoliosis patients will actually have to go, and ankylosing spondylitis patients have to often go through bilateral hip arthroplasty. Bilateral meaning both sides, and that's a really extreme procedure. Similarly, scoliosis patients sometimes will need to go through a rotator cuff repair if they've torn their rotator cuff. So the likelihood of me having to undergo one of these procedures is actually extremely high. My chiropractor essentially has told me that my L5 vertebrae is attached to my hip due to my ankylosing spondylitis, so my hips don't really move. So I'm hoping to correct that. It's pretty nerve-wracking for me to have the idea of having to go through surgery. I've never done that. I've never gone through any formal surgery before. Although I had to wear a brace when I was a child, I've never gone through any surgeries. So how does this connect? Oso VR and virtual reality technology actually provides a few of these surgeries that I've just mentioned as virtual modules that surgeons and trainees can participate in, again, a repeatable amount of times. Total knee replacement and rotator cuff modules are actually both readily available and are being used today. In addition, Justin Barad, the CEO of Oso VR, whom has worked with cerebral palsy patients closely, he really is trying to bring in more procedures that are focused for people with disabilities, namely Botox injections. Funny enough, Botox injections don't just have a cosmetic appeal. They can provide relaxing of the muscle, so there's less spasticity. If you guys are familiar with TMJ or TMD, if you guys have any jaw problems, a lot of that is due to the spasticity of the masseter muscle. So Botox injections can actually really help cerebral palsy patients that have that spasticity. Virtual reality technology has come an extremely long way, and it's actually even clinically validated. Multiple peer-reviewed trials have occurred further supporting the positive impact of Oso VR's modules for their participants. For one, the Journals of Surgical Education has conducted a few different studies on Oso VR's modules, including the partial knee arthroplasty that I've just mentioned. And all of the research conducted led to positive feedback. Furthermore, a study done by UCLA's David Geffen School of Medicine had a measurable 230% increase in surgical performance based on traditional training. So that's huge. 230% compared to traditional training is an extreme leap. And it's measurable. This isn't just Surgeon Simulator or some gimmick. This is really a validated technology. And more research is continually coming out to support this fact. However, sometimes the adoption can be a little bit slow. I'd like to hope that this discussion that I'm having would have for more quick adoption from all of you, and that it's something that brings interest. Since it is evident that virtual reality can provide surgeons with the ability to repeatedly and statistically improve their craft, I propose it is intrinsically helping patients with physical disabilities who often need certain surgeries. Provided that the surgery is available through a virtual module, the surgeon can ensure that he or she has done the module an utmost amount of times and is extremely ready to perform the surgery. In addition, I believe it gives patients a heightened sense of security and faith in their surgical providers. Not only have their surgical providers gone through the standard doctoral credentials and education, but now they're using this cutting-edge training that allows them to even further improve their craft. With the combination of both of these styles of training, I suggest that we can provide better patient outcomes for those with personal disabilities, or for those with physical disabilities. Personally, I feel it makes me more inclined to get a surgery myself if I do need one, knowing that our surgeons had gone through both of these types of training. It would ease my mind to know that. It also kind of gets me thinking back to the young girl that fell in the river when she was in 6th grade, and that maybe she'd take some solace in knowing that there would be some new technology that could possibly help her and, not prevent her from falling, but maybe help a hip that she broke if she fell. I'd also like to think that she'd take some pride in knowing that she actually participated in the advancement of this great virtual reality.